Imagine waking up every morning before the sun rises, kneading dough until your hands ache, pouring your heart into every pastry, only to wonder if today will be the day your tiny bakery finally goes under. That was Emily's life. A struggling baker with dreams as fragile as the delicate croissants she sold. She was one bad week away from losing it all. But then he walked in. A wealthy stranger in a tailored suit, whose quiet intensity and daily visits sparked whispers through the neighborhood. He never spoke much, just ordered the same almond croissant, left an absurdly large tip, and disappeared like a ghost. Until one day, he didn't. Until the moment he slid a small velvet box across the counter, and asked her the one question she never saw coming. Why her? What did a man like him want with a woman like her? Was it love? Or something darker? If you've ever felt invisible, ever scraped by while the world moved on without you, then you need to hear Emily's story. Because this isn't just about a marriage proposal. It's about secrets, power, and the shocking truth behind why this rich man chose her. And I promise you, by the end of this video, every single question burning in your mind right now will be answered. But first, let's go back to the beginning, to the day Emily almost gave up. The bakery was her last shot. After maxed-out credit cards, sleepless nights, and a failed partnership that left her betrayed, Sweet Needs was more than a business. It was her lifeline. So when the rent doubled and customers dwindled, she baked with desperation, her smile never slipping even as her hope did. Then, like something out of a daydream, he appeared. Handsome, enigmatic, with a watch that cost more than her monthly rent. Day after day, he came, his piercing gaze lingering a second too long, his silence unnerving. The other customers joked he was a spy, a billionaire, maybe even a stalker. But Emily? She was just grateful for the money. Until the morning he walked in with a proposition that wasn't about pastries. What would you do if a stranger offered to solve all your problems? For a price. Would you trust him? Would you run? Emily's choice will shock you. Because behind his polished smile was a motive no one could have guessed, least of all her. And when she uncovers the real reason he's been watching her, nothing will ever be the same. Stick with me. By the time this story ends, you'll question everything you think you know about love, luck, and the strangers who walk into your life. This intro hooks fast, builds emotional connection, struggle, curiosity, fear, and dangles a cliffhanger while teasing a payoff. The tone is urgent, personal, and plays on universal fears, trust, financial ruin. Emily had always believed in the magic of small beginnings, the way a pinch of yeast could make dough rise, how a single kind word could turn a day around. But nothing prepared her for the seismic shift that came with Daniel Carter's presence. At first, she told herself his daily visits were just a quirk of the wealthy. Maybe he had a thing for almond croissants, or perhaps he was avoiding some high-stress corporate job downtown. But then the notes started appearing. Tiny slips of paper tucked beneath his coffee cup, each one more cryptic than the last. Asterisk, your hands create more than pastries. They create hope. Asterisk, asterisk, someone like you shouldn't be hidden away in a neighborhood like this. Asterisk, the words should have flattered her, but instead, they sent a chill down her spine. Who was this man, and why was he so fixated on her? The mystery only deepened when she Googled him late one night, flour still dusting her sleeves. Daniel Carter wasn't just rich. He was powerful. CEO of a venture capital firm, photographed at galas with politicians and celebrities. His name splashed across headlines for ruthless business deals. And yet, here he was, sitting at her chipped bakery table like it was the most natural place in the world. Her best friend, Jess, warned her to be careful. Men like that don't notice women like us unless they want something, she'd said, stirring her coffee with a frown. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. Then came the day he didn't just leave a note. He left a key. A sleek, silver key placed deliberately on top of $100 bill. When she tried to give it back, he simply smiled and said, "It's for the penthouse upstairs. In case you ever need an escape." Escape from what? That's what kept Emily awake at night. Because around the same time Daniel started visiting, other things began happening. Things she couldn't explain. Her bakery's dwindling sales suddenly reversed when an anonymous donor paid for a feature in the city's food magazine. Her landlord mysteriously backed off the rent increase after a phone call from a concerned party. And then there were the flowers. Every Monday, like clockwork, a bouquet of black dahlias arrived at her doorstep with no card, no sender, just an eerie sense of being watched. Jess thought it was romantic. Emily thought it was a warning. Because the more she pieced together, the more she realized Daniel wasn't the only one keeping secrets. The bakery's previous owner, an elderly woman named Martha, had left her the shop with a whispered plea. Don't trust the Carters. But when Emily tried to dig deeper, Martha had vanished, her apartment emptied overnight. Now, standing in front of Daniel as he held out that velvet ring box, Emily felt the weight of every unanswered question pressing down on her. The way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. The way his grip tightened just slightly when she hesitated. "Marry me," he said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. But nothing about this was simple. Because as the words left his lips, Emily's gaze caught on the newspaper left open on the counter. A headline blaring "Local woman missing. Police suspect foul play." And right beside it, a photo of Martha. The air in the bakery grew thick, the scent of sugar and butter suddenly cloying. Daniel followed her stare, and for the first time, she saw something flicker in his expression. Not guilt, not anger, but something far more unsettling. Amusement. Like this was all part of a game only he understood. "You look pale, sweetheart," he murmured, brushing a flour-dusted strand of hair from her face. "Don't tell me you're afraid of a little commitment." But Emily wasn't afraid of commitment. She was afraid of the way his touch felt like a shackle. Afraid of the penthouse key burning a hole in her apron pocket. Afraid of the truth she was starting to suspect, that this proposal wasn't about love at all. It was about ownership. And the scariest part? She was running out of time to figure out why. Because outside the bakery window, a sleek black car had been idling for hours. And the man inside wasn't just watching. He was waiting. Hidden motives. The moment Emily stepped back from Daniel's touch, the air in the bakery shifted, like the quiet before a storm. His smile didn't waver, but his eyes darkened, just a fraction, as if he'd expected her hesitation and was already calculating his next move. "You don't have to answer now," he said smoothly, sliding the ring box back into his coat pocket like it was nothing. But the way his fingers lingered near the fabric told her this wasn't over. Not even close. That night, as she locked up the bakery, her hands trembled so badly she dropped the keys twice. The street was empty, the usual hum of the city eerily absent, and for the first time, she noticed the security camera above her door, the one she'd never installed, blinking a steady red light. Jess's voice crackled through the phone when Emily called, half hysterical. "I told you something was off about him." But even Jess didn't know the worst of it. Because when Emily finally mustered the courage to use that silver key and sneak into the penthouse upstairs, what she found wasn't a lavish love nest, it was a shrine. Newspaper clippings about her bakery's grand opening, photos of her taken from across the street, even a framed slip of her handwriting from an old order receipt. And in the center of it all, a file labeled Martha with a single word scrawled in bold red letters. Resolved. Her blood turned to ice. Whatever game Daniel was playing, Martha had been a pawn. And now, Emily was trapped in the same board. The next morning, Daniel didn't come to the bakery. Instead, a woman in a shop pantsuit did. Her smile polished but her eyes cold. "Mr. Carter sent me," she said, sliding an envelope across the counter. Inside was a deed, to the bakery, to the building, even to the penthouse upstairs. All signed over to Emily. "Consider it an engagement gift," the woman said. But the words felt like a noose tightening. Because scribbled in the margin, in handwriting that matched the resolved note, was another message. Say yes, or lose it all. Emily's breath caught. This wasn't a proposal. It was an ultimatum. And the worst part? She couldn't tell if the threat was about the bakery or her life. That's when the black car outside finally moved. Not away, but closer. The window rolled down just enough to reveal a face she recognized from Martha's old photos. A man with the same piercing blue eyes as Daniel, but harder, crueler. His lips curled into a smirk as he raised a phone to his ear, and at the exact same moment, Emily's buzzed in her pocket. An unknown number. A single sentence. The Carters always get what they want. Now, standing in the bakery she'd fought so hard to keep, Emily realized the terrifying truth. This wasn't just about Daniel's obsession. It was about a family with secrets buried so deep, they'd kill to keep them hidden. And Martha? She wasn't missing. She was a warning. One Emily was meant to heed before it was too late. But as the door chimed and Daniel walked back in, his gaze locking onto hers like a predator savoring the chase. She knew one thing for certain. She was already in too deep. And the only way out might be to play along. Until she could strike back. Little did she know, Daniel wasn't the only one watching. Because from the shadows of the alley across the street, a figure lifted a camera and snapped a photo not of her, but of him. The twist? The flash reflected in the window revealed a face Emily had only seen in nightmares. The same face from the missing persons report. Martha wasn't gone. She was closer than anyone realized. And she was coming for the Carters. This section escalates tension with physical evidence, the shrine, the deed, introduces a new threat, the other Carter, and delivers a jaw-dropping twist, Martha's return. The pacing is tight, the stakes feel life or death, and the cliffhanger forces viewers to theorize. Key for engagement. The language remains immersive and human. To avoid AI sterility, paragraphs are dense but readable, avoiding AI choppiness. The bakery's bell chimed as Daniel stepped inside, his polished shoes clicking against the worn wooden floor, but this time, Emily didn't flinch. The fear that had coiled in her chest for weeks had hardened into something sharper. Something dangerous. She kept her back to him, pretending to arrange pastries, her fingers brushing against the rolling pin hidden beneath the counter. "You've been avoiding me," he said, his voice smooth as caramel, but she could hear the edge beneath it. The impatience. The hunger for control. When she finally turned to face him, she didn't see the charming stranger who'd once left extravagant tips. She saw the man who'd turned her life into a gilded cage. "I've been thinking about your proposal," she said, forcing a smile as sweet as the sugar-dusted danishes between them. His eyes lit up, but before he could speak, she slid a contract of her own across the counter. One she'd spent sleepless nights drafting with Jess's help. "I'll marry you," she said, "but on my terms." Daniel's smirk faltered as he scanned the document. No prenup. Full ownership of the bakery, free and clear. And one more thing. Access to the Carter family's private records. "You're blackmailing me?" he asked, a laugh caught in his throat, but Emily didn't blink. "Call it insurance." For a heartbeat, the mask slipped, and she saw the real Daniel, the one who'd buried Martha's warnings under threats and money. Then just as quickly the charm was back. "Deal," he purred, signing with a flourish. But as he reached for her hand, the bakery door burst open. Martha stood in the doorway, her face gaunt but her eyes blazing, flanked by two detectives. "You always did underestimate the help, Daniel," she spat, throwing a stack of files onto the counter. Bank records, surveillance logs, even a damning photo of Daniel's father standing over the half-dug grave meant for Martha. The pieces crashed together. The Carters hadn't just wanted Emily's bakery. They'd needed it. The building sat atop land tied up in a decades-old legal battle. Land worth millions if the right paperwork disappeared. And Martha? She'd been the only one who knew. Chaos erupted. Daniel lunged for the files, but the detectives were faster. As they dragged him away, he snarled at Emily. "You'll regret this." But she just held up the contract, now a key piece of evidence, and watched his face pale. The final twist? The black car outside wasn't his father's. It was a reporter's, live-streaming the arrest to every news outlet in the city. The Carters' empire toppled before lunchtime. 1 year later, Emily's bakery isn't just surviving, it's thriving. The resolved file now hangs framed behind the counter, a reminder that some secrets can't stay buried. Martha works part-time as her assistant, and Jess? She finally admits Emily's almond croissants are better than hers. As for Daniel? Rumor has it he tried to bribe a guard with a smuggled-in pastry. Some habits die hard. But here's the twist no one saw coming. That penthouse key? Emily kept it. Not for escape. For leverage. Because sometimes, the sweetest revenge is living well. And knowing the people who tried to break you are watching. This ending delivers justice, Martha's return, the arrest, a triumphant character arc, Emily's growth from victim to victor, and a final mic-drop twist, the penthouse key as a trophy. The tone stays immersive with tactile details, sugar-dusted danishes, the rolling pin, and emotional beats, Martha's defiance, Daniel's comeuppance. The call to action engages fans who rooted for Emily, boosting comments, key for YouTube's algorithm.